Monster truck tracks come in many forms, from small county fairs to huge gargantuan stadiums across the world. But there's another thing that makes a monster truck event a monster truck event: track design. For 3 decades, we've seen good tracks, bad tracks, simple tracks, and complicated tracks. But some track layouts aren't necessarily bad, but they're just plain bizarre, and they stick with you even to this very day. These strangely designed tracks make you wonder what the track designers might have been on. Let's go over a few, shall we? But first, a couple of honorable mentions.
Number 15.
Starting off this list, we have pretty much every Thunder Nationals event that didn't have dirt, instead just 2 rows of crushed cars. If you don't know what the Thunder Nationals are, it was basically Monster Jam's original arena tour that ran up until 2015, when it was replaced with the Triple Threat series. Since these tracks were in arenas, you can't get more basic than these tracks. Or can they? The reason these are only number 15 is because, well, they couldn't have done much more given the constraints.
Number 14.
At number 14, we have the only normal Monster Jam event held at Sam Boyd Stadium. Hosting a normal Monster Jam event at Sam Boyd Stadium is, after having the World Finals relocated, is one thing, but having it on the weekend that the World Finals was meant to take place on is an even bigger kick in the groin for this stadium. It's just unusual to see the stadium get a normal event, and the fact that they didn't have Vegas-style racing, which makes this an even bigger missed opportunity. The fact that the stadium itself is only 3/4 enclosed is just uncanny to look at, especially since they didn't incorporate that into the track, which is something we'll get into later.
Number 13.
At number 13, we have St. Louis 2006. This is a track that really embodies all the Monster Jam tracks from this golden era. But the part that sticks out like a sore thumb is the huge jump covered with cars. And I've counted, there are 32 cars. Unfortunately, nobody cleared all of them, but a lot of them did try.
Number 12.
At number 12, we have a track layout that was only used once. In the 2018 December event in Minneapolis, Monster Jam had a weird idea to design a track that could run 2 races at the same time. A good idea in theory, but had confusing and overall horrible execution. The good news is that this was only used once.
Number 11.
Before getting to number 11, a quick history lesson. From 2008 to 2012, Monster Jam ran a special series of shows at Reliance Stadium in Houston, called fittingly Monster Jam Thrill Show. These tracks were not like other Monster Jam tracks. These tracks were specifically designed for thrill, hence the name. The strangest of these was the 2010 show. The thing that sticks out the most is the ocean of crushed cars just slapped in the center of the track, as well as 2 big jumps on both sides. Imagine if these events were aired. That would have been crazy. I should also mention that the thrill shows did not include racing. Hey, at least they're upfront about it. These tracks would be Everett Jasmer's worst nightmare.
Number 10.
At number 10, we have a series of events that took place in Vancouver in the 2000s. The reason these were weird tracks is because this was probably the only, at least in terms of post-2000 Monster Jam, instance where a stadium event had no dirt, just crushed cars in a bus stack. Minus the 2004 event, which had dirt in the racing lanes as seen in around the USHRA segment of this event. Of course, because of the fact that there was no dirt, footage from these events stick out like a bulldozer in a herd of El Toro Locos.
Number 9.
At number 9, we have not a specific track, but instead a venue as a whole. In 2021, Monster Jam ditched Mercedes-Benz Stadium and decided to hop over to Hampton's Atlanta Motor Speedway. Obviously, this wasn't the first time Monster Jam held a racetrack event, but this was arguably the most bizarre. Because Atlanta Motor Speedway is a tri-oval, and because of that, it gave the track its unusual shape, even though the racing format was a straight line. When Monster Jam returned the next year, the track layout was just as strange, and it seems to be a Monster Jam venue for the foreseeable future.
Number 8.
At number 8, we have the World Finals 20 racing layout. When the World Finals moved out of Las Vegas, they moved to Orlando, but decided to keep the Vegas-style racing that we're all used to. With that in mind, Monster Jam decided to make a racing layout where the trucks literally drive over the grandstands. However, when the World Finals came back in 2022, this style of racing is impossible because since then, the stadium built more seats where the starting line was located.
Number 7.
Heading back to Sam Boyd Stadium but sticking in 2019, the inaugural All-Star Challenge featured a unique figure-8 style racing layout for its first day. One part was in the stadium, but the other half was through the Thunder Alleys. To make things even stranger was that you couldn't see half of the racing track, so it's always a mystery to see if you're in first or not. The second day featured the standard Vegas style that we all know and love. 2023 will see the revival of the All-Star renamed to the Superstar Challenge. It will take place at Angel Stadium. Who knows what wacky track they'll come up with for that.
Number 6.
For number 6, we head back to the World Finals at Camping World Stadium. Due to renovations to the stadium, which included additional seats that were built over where the starting line was, Monster Jam was forced to come up with a new racing format. They decided to do something that's never been done before, at least in Monster Jam, an over-under racing layout. So here's the rundown. Both trucks started to each other's backs, Western shootout style. They then went through the turns with a ramp in between them. One truck would jump over the other while the other had a straight shot underneath. They went through the turns again, and this time the roles were reversed. After that, it's a dash to the finish. The only thing I don't like about this is if you're looking at the track horizontally, you wouldn't tell who won the race. As for the over-under concept, there's only one mishap when Weston Anderson missed the landing ramp. Luckily, no one accidentally landed on each other.
Who's gonna kill Brandon Benson?
The track was also built to accommodate the two-wheel skills competition. However, the event was moved to the next day so that no one would drown.
Number 5.
At number 5, we have probably the worst World Finals track in history. Starting in 2014 when racing and freestyle got their own days, Monster Jam made a track specifically designed for racing on Friday and one made for freestyle on Saturday. The first year was the most unusual. Everything was pretty much just clumped into a gigantic glomp of dirt, cars, and paint, and called it a freestyle track. It didn't help that the flat parts of the track were also painted, so perspective was definitely not on the minds of the track instructors. As you can imagine, a lot of trucks were junked. Starting in 2017, drivers were allowed to pitch their designs for what the freestyle track should look like. Luckily, they gave us a slightly better track than the clusterfuck that was World Finals 15.
Number 4.
At number 4, we go to the only non-Monster Jam event on this list. In 2013, the short-lived Robbie Gordon Stadium Monster Truck Series was held in the LA Coliseum. The track in question is definitely the definition of insane, if you know what I mean. If you thought the previous 11 tracks were insane, how about a half-paved, half-dirt hybrid of a racing track combined with an over-under section? And you thought going down the stadium seats was strange? How about going up them, looping around, then coming back down? And if that's not enough, doing that while another truck jumps on top of you?
You got me fucked up. You got me fucked up. You got me fucked up.
Number 3.
At number 3, we have a new type of track layout, donut style. No, I'm not talking about the triple threat style. I'm talking about using the outside of the field. At this point, you might as well just build the track on the outside of the stadium itself. But if you think that's the only time this concept was used, well, wait until you meet.
Number 2.
At number 2, we have the same concept except even more absurd. Costa Rica 2018 was held at Estadio Nacional. I butchered that probably. And because they didn't want the trucks to hurt the football field, so Monster Jam was basically given the outer track for running. However, the dimensions of their field was much bigger than Beijing's. This track pretty much is an inverted Monster Jam track. Never thought we'd see the day, but here we are. We've talked about weird racing layouts, unusual obstacles, and bizarre venues. What track could possibly top the previous 14? Do you want to know? Well, here you go.
Number 1.
What is this? This looks like a school gym with two of the biggest yoga mats I've ever seen. Possibly a glimpse of what a modern Thunder Nationals event, which, fun fact, this was the last Monster Jam event to not have dirt. And this was done because the venue didn't want dirt. Okay, no problem. Just bring in 2 rows of cars. Right? Well, a few months prior, Monster Jam decided to discontinue crush cars, so they used concrete blocks as an alternative. So English Monster Jam fans went to the shit show in Manchester to be disappointed as expected. Despite that, the trucks were still able to do some of the stunts that they've been accustomed to, albeit not as well as a specifically designed dirt mound. So what they got will forever go down as the weirdest monster truck track design in history. But now I pass the question on to you. What is the weirdest track design you've ever seen? Leave your comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you on the flip side.